Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 828. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Today, we spotlight Arash Parsania. We talk about his exciting new methodology, HYPERID. The methodology builds on and integrates pragmatic ideas from many disciplines to create something new. HYPERID is a flexible hybrid method that fits a wide range of different types of work. Arash is the creator of HYPERID, a hybrid methodology for project management and product development. He brings 20 years of experience in project management, consulting, and digital business transformation. His experience spans software engineering, retail, travel, hospitality, automotive, telecommunications, consumer products, and insurance industries. Throughout his career, he has advised numerous organizations on digital business transformation, process definition, optimization for project and product development, and project portfolio management. He has worked with global leaders to enhance project and product management, quality development, and establish specialized project management frameworks and methodologies. Are you ready to explore HYPERID? It's time for the conversation. Arash Parsania, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Thank you, Tom, for the invitation, and hello to all dear listeners of this great podcast.
We are excited to talk today about, a book and methodology/framework, HYPERID. Let's just start right at the beginning. What is HYPERID?
First of all, I apologize for having chosen a bad name because I haven't seen anyone pronouncing it in the right way. It's HYPERID, so it suggests to sound like hybrid, you just need to change or exchange a P with the D. It's HYPERID. So, this is probably the best question to start with. HYPERID is a hybrid methodology for project and product delivery.
And that's where the name came from.
Yeah, exactly. And then it has been publicly available since October 22, primarily in the German-speaking countries, following the very positive response in that market. We recently published it globally as well. As part of this global release, the book has been published in English, which describes the HYPERID methodology in detail and using many real-life examples. Also currently working with a tool manufacturer who wants to release a HYPERID edition of the tool. And soon other necessary things such as certifications will also be possible. And as that, it's a recent and very fresh release. Many things for its ecosystem are being developed now at a high speed, even though the development of the methodology itself has been going on for many years because it comes from practical experience.
What makes this really a methodology?
What it makes the methodology is actually it's dependent on the definition of a methodology. For me, the methodology is a combination of processes, method, tools, best practices, etc. So everything together makes it a methodology, and HYPERID is including all this. Therefore, I'm talking about the methodology. The purpose is to make sure that all projects and all project types can be served with this methodology, and everyone who's trained on this methodology knows how to start, how to run it, and how to end it successfully.
Why do we need something that covers all different kinds of projects?
Yeah, why is it needed? This is a very important question. So I have three answers to this question. A very short answer, a metaphorical answer, and a factual answer. So let's discuss all three. First, the short answer, then the factual answer, and finally the metaphorical one, because maybe not every listener is an experienced project manager and might not be familiar with the content of the factual explanation. So the very short answer is that in my own projects and in all project audits I have conducted, and there have been many of them, I've noticed many similarities as to why projects are difficult and things start to fail. And that the same things are always missing in the existing methods for projects to run well. And so over the years, these things that need to be done differently or added or left out have been further developed and harmonized so that they have led to the current version of HYPERID as a methodology. That was the short answer. The factual answer would be we have seen that the success rate of projects has been declining since around 2015. And I believe there are some good reasons for that. Agile methods like Scrum improved project delivery significantly, especially in the beginning of the 2000s, by actually making overcomplicated scope change management processes of waterfall models much easier and placing changes at the core of their methodology. And they also increase the focus on value creation. That's why they worked well in projects for a while until their shortcomings come to light, which in my opinion is the reason for the decline in project success rate that we see. In a nutshell, both linear approaches, commonly known as waterfall and agile methods, don't fully meet the needs of today's company when it comes to tech projects in particular, each in their own way. Scrum, for example, struggles with planning and providing information on when something will be delivered, at what cost, and with what resource required. But this is the core information that companies need. As a result, Scrum can deliver on time or on budget because it doesn't address the questions upfront. And Waterfall, on the other hand, struggles with quickly completing specifications, planning, and responding to changes during implementation in a simple and straightforward way. Both approaches currently show mediocre delivery performance values, and delivery performance directly impact project success, which is why I actually introduced this KPI. For listeners, delivery performance, very, very simply put, is the mathematical product of effectiveness and efficiency, while Waterfall struggles with effectiveness, creating the best outcomes. Scrum struggles with efficiency, leading to mediocre delivery performance values for both. To cut the long story short, a methodology was needed that utilizes the strengths of various available methods and balances their shortcomings with new methods and approaches to better meet the needs of companies in terms of project and product delivery. In addition, another annoying issue is that people often have to decide which method to use. Using waterfall makes sense for building a skyscraper, while in the case of a highly evolutionary development, where it's not yet possible to have a precise idea of the result, for example, in the development of AI itself, a highly agile method such as extreme programming is the right approach, probably. And in the end, most people don't choose the right methods anyway. And it's not just the use of Kanban in software projects that I can think of right now. And above all, there is no right method for the majority of the projects anyway. As we know, Waterfall serves certain project types, and Scrum is for ongoing product development, not even for a first version of a product, which would actually be a project. This is why hybrid methods have been talked about and sought after for some time. And until now, there has been no fully comprehensive system available that describes standardized concept with method modules that are harmonized and aligned with one another. And this is the gap that hybrid is supposed to fill.
So if you're focusing on being in between, right? You're taking care of the shortcomings of waterfall, and you're taking care of the shortcomings of some of the agile frameworks. Don't the zealots in both camps sort of hate this?
I don't hope so, because the core intent is to make sure that projects run well. And I think if people are successful, they are happy. But there may be some people that are
but I love
skeptical.
my Scrum, or I love my waterfall.
Yeah, that can happen. I mean, I haven't observed it so far, but I'm sure this will happen, and some people will say that. And I invite everyone to have a conversation with me or with us through the website and talk about the facts and the reasonings behind it. I mean, the book includes around 400 pages. So I try to put a lot of examples and also explain where some approaches, methods, etc., are introduced to make sure that everyone understands it. And then everything can be explained. And then as long as people are willing to listen, and so far in the past, I've experienced nothing else. So everyone was indeed really interested and listened well. We came to a good conclusion. And I've got a metaphorical answer to your question also.
Yeah, I was about to say, I do want the metaphorical answer.
Yeah. So let's imagine I have to get from Munich to Frankfurt in 5 hours to fly on from Frankfurt. If we imagine this as a simple project or the simplest possible project, the analogy to the waterfall approach would be that I would have to use an old paper map. I would first have to think about where to go and would probably draw in the route in the paper map, which would be similar to planning a project. And on the way, there would be traffic jams, accidents, redirections, roadblocks, and so on. I would have to plan the route manually every time, and there would always be new surprises, not to mention the co-driver making wrong announcements with the map in there. So there's a lot time lost due to the time-consuming planning and due to the fact that it's difficult to deal with change needs with a paper map. And it's similar in the waterfall projects, long planning and difficult handling of change requirements. The analogy to Scrum would be that I don't use a paper map, but a compass. I mean, a compass is even used in the agile terminology. I set off immediately because I don't plan the route, but I only have directional information from the compass in my hand. And I'm not traveling in an open desert or on water. I have to drive along available roads and streets. So from crossroad to crossroad or from district to district, which can be an analogy to sprints, I have to get the compass out again and correct the direction. And if there are any problems there, such as accidents, traffic jams, etc., I can use the compass again and find my new way again. So, but if you drive like this, you may arrive, but you don't know when you will get there, and it's very likely that you will arrive late because although you always knew the direction, you probably didn't take the optimal route, or you didn't know the one-way streets or the roadblocks, etc. And that's how it works in Scrum. So you set off immediately with a compass. You don't know which is the best route, and often you arrive too late and at higher cost. So what we actually need is what we've got today when we drive, a navigation system. In other words, a very fast calculation of the route, the most accurate possible prediction of when we will arrive, and in the event of challenges in between, like traffic jams and roadblocks or accidents, a quick recalculation of the route with a new forecast of the arrival time. And HYPERID has been developed in such a way that it has the characteristics of a navigation system. It is able to quickly provide information on delivery times and costs. And at the same time, it ensures a high degree of agility and allows you to make changes at any time when you're already on the road to adapt the route and reach your destination in the best possible. And that's the reason why a new methodology is needed, because neither a paper map nor a compass are sufficient today to complete journeys that may involve certain costs and have a known duration. Only on the basis of reliable predictions and project delivery can companies be successful today, because this way they can actually reliably put their objectives or their strategy into practice.
Not being able to forecast or at least have a conversation about when something will be delivered, what will be delivered, and how much it will cost makes it very difficult to plan releases as a marketer or bringing something new to market. It really does. It either means you have to get it done real early or have a high degree of risk. How is risk dealt with?
Risk management is actually a very crucial part of HYPERID as a methodology, because in order to keep the promises, to have a very short planning phase, to start early, but having a plan already in your hand, having a core design, etc., you work with certain ambiguities in HYPERID. So it starts with clearly defining the scope of a project. It continues with effort estimations. So because you don't have a fully specified design document in hand, you just have a core design, and I can explain later what it is.
I will want to go down that path because that's a very significant, interesting piece of the methodology. So, but continue.
Yes, indeed. And you take a lot of assumptions. You make assumptions during the scope definition. You make assumptions when you define your work packages, because you just have a core design at hand. You make assumptions when you estimate the effort for the implementation of work packages, etc. And assumptions, as everyone knows, is the first step of the path of project disasters, right? So they convert, assumptions are the basis for risks. Risks can convert to issues, and then issues continue to disaster. Therefore, I've integrated risk management as a key part of the HYPERID process itself, meaning it already starts with the planning phase. So as soon as you assume something, you consider this as a risk, you evaluate the risk, you estimate the effort and then the consequences of the risk, and you put all these numbers in, or you consider all this information and numbers into the planning exercise so that it's already covered before you start. And while you execute the implementation and run the project, it's also an integral part of the HYPERID movement. Otherwise, it would not be possible to have a plan at hand and get it started early and be agile on it.
Risk is core. It's built in. I think that's incredibly important. Core design, you brought that up, and that's another one of the items that I think really is a major difference in the HYPERID approach. So I think I think can you shed some light on what that is? Is that like a big upfront design?
Yeah, let me explain it in the context of the whole process of how HYPERID works, because also related to the bold statement that HYPERID actually can cover all types of projects. So in HYPERID, there are three main phases at the top level. The first one is define scope. The second phase is ADP, that stands for Analyze, Design, Plan. And the third one is deliver value as a phase. And there are different parts of the HYPERID process that contribute to the fact that HYPERID covers all project types. And the main contribution comes in the second phase, that is ADP, again, Analyze, Design, Plan. The first instance is that in the context of in the first instance, it happens in the context of the first two letters, A and D, that stand for Analyze and Design. Here in this place, a so-called core design is created that you mentioned. And why core design? In Waterfall, a full design is created. It's about a complete specification of what you're going to do. So the disadvantage of the tech projects is that the full design takes very long time to complete. Sometimes even so long that the project is even canceled, or a large part of it becomes obsolete at a later date because a lot will change until. So this produces a lot of waste if you follow the full design approach of the waterfall methodology. With Scrum, we see the exact opposite. So a no design approach. Teams just start developing something. The downside is that while they may have some initial success, and they often have with POCs or MVPs, once they try to develop it further and bring the solution to the whole organization, they find out that they haven't considered necessary things like multi-tenancy, multi-language capabilities, scalability, modularity, performance, etc. And this often leads to significant project delays, project restarts, or even project cancellations. So HYPERID takes a middle path here and creates a core design that meets certain criteria. One is that it ensures an end-to-end consideration of the solution. Second is that it includes as few details as possible and as many as necessary when describing the specification of the solution. And third one is that it it is described so clearly that the detailed work can be unambiguously derived from it. And the recommendation is here to define about 20% of the full design and define the remaining 80% as work packages that are specified during implementation as needed. And this compensates for the drawbacks of both waterfall and Scrum. By developing 20% of the full design, the design is completed quickly. And since the rest is specified later, it's not a big deal if things become obsolete because no effort was spent or wasted on them. In this case, one design work package is simply replaced by another. And by considering the solution end to end, you avoid the Scrum trap of realizing too late that the architecture is wrong, solution design is wrong, because things like multi-language support, multi-tenancy, modularity were just forgotten. You consider them in your core design. And by the way, this 20% rule is not rigid either. So if only few changes are expected in a project, you can increase the 20% to 60, 70, 80%, or even 100%, as in the case of a skyscraper. If too many changes are expected, you can reduce the core design to 10%. But you should have a core design in opposite to the Scrum approach. And this core design is a key contribution to addressing all types of projects. The second key contribution is also in this ADP phase, in the last letter, the P, which stands for planning, and it's behind the 3 approximation levels of planning that happen.
So tell us more about that.
Planning in HYPERID is done in these 3 approximations. So the first approximation is called high-level approximation, and the outcome of this approximation is the so-called high-level scope delivery plan. This serves the purpose of high-level phase and milestone planning, as well as scope adjustments and fine-tunings. And it's good that it happens during the planning, and you're not surprised at the later stage. The ADP phase itself can be left here for highly evolutionary and outcome-based initiatives, although it's not recommended. The second approximation is called mid-level approximation, and the outcome of this approximation is the so-called high-level delivery plan. This plan allocates work packages to iterations, so the planning granularity is on iteration level. So you have an iteration plan, and you know which work packages belong to each iteration. The ADP phase can be left here for evolutionary or scope-based initiatives. Can be, but doesn't have to. And the third approximation is called final approximation, very creative name. And the outcome of it is called delivery plan. And this plan allocates work packages on a weekly basis, considering their dependencies too. So this plan is suitable for every type of project or product. So the general recommendation is to fully complete all 3 approximations during the ADP phase. Under certain circumstances, such as highly evolutionary or outcome-based initiatives, the ADP phase can be left earlier. There may also be time constraints, such as when companies participating in a tender, and there's no time left, and then it prevents completing the third approximation. Early exit is possible and allowed. And HYPERID provides multiple mechanisms, including what we discussed, the highly structured risk management, to compensate for inaccuracies and ultimately creating a reliable plan.
So what wouldn't HYPERID work for?
It can't cook a dish.
And we're laughing. You know, the listeners have to know that we were having a conversation up front about our general cooking skills. So that's actually a shame, but okay.
Yeah. To answer your question in a serious way, I find it a bit difficult to make conclusive statements because I don't know what I don't know. I have intentionally developed HYPERID in a way that it can handle all types of projects. And so far, I have not come across a project type that could not be implemented in HYPERID. There may be edge cases where HYPERID would perform pretty much the same as other methods, This would be the case in particular for projects and product types for which respective methodologies were specifically developed. For example, bridge construction using the waterfall method, or AI development using extreme programming, and so on. But so far, no exception is known. But we can also use this podcast as a call to action for the listeners. If you encounter any project types that cannot be planned and implemented with HYPERID, please contact us or me directly. Then this edge case will be taken into account, and HYPERID will be further developed to HYPERID 2.0 or HYPERID Reloaded, so that those edge cases are also covered.
Those, I think, would be really interesting conversations to
Absolutely.
Be a bug on the wall and actually listen to. Before we start to wrap, there's one more question that I really do want to sort of unwrap, or area of the methodology. In terms of dealing with change, and maybe there are less changes when somebody's building a bridge or a skyscraper, albeit my guess is there are probably a lot of individual changes. I think a lot of stuff goes on there. How does this methodology incorporate in the dynamicism that Agile was sort of dragged into existence to deal with?
The consideration of changes is not necessarily a specific feature of HYPERID. It is compared to waterfall, but not compared with Scrum. Existing agile methods already have this well under control, and HYPERID does actually the same or do it similarly, namely with the inclusion or removal of backlog items, backlog refinements, prioritizations, test and learn approaches, etc. What is special about HYPERID, however, is the planning part. It is a fast and accurate one. This, in combination with embracing of changes, pays off in a positive and impactful way. On the one hand, there may be a need for changes during the planning phase of a project, because things such as budget, time, achievement of outcomes, etc., may not fit. And these changes can be considered immediately in HYPERID, which is a great benefit to know it already in advance. On the other hand, if there is a need for a change during implementation, scope or backlog adjustments can be made as with Scrum, which is one half of the so-called SGRP that is introduced with HYPERID, with the second half, or with the RP part, which stands for rapid planning. HYPERID manages to create a plan forward after each iteration, which is called delivery cycle in HYPERID, by the way. So the real strength of HYPERID is to welcome changes, make reliable predictions at the same time, and ensure that commitments are kept during it.
You've written a book. You've pushed this out into the world. Your child, basically. What do you know now that will be in the second edition of the book, or the second version of HYPERID?
The second version probably will include how other project types that we were not aware of can be covered also. So the other question that you asked. And I think a lot will change. The needs will change. Everything is getting faster. I'm pretty sure we will need to learn and adapt from some methods and tools and practices, because we learn about new project types also. I briefly explained in the beginning, it has been developed from practice, and it's not that I just used 3 months to write a book. The result of many project audits, and also making a lot of mistakes myself, and then seeing others making mistakes, and trying to find solutions for each single challenging situation. So it has been developed over decades. So it has improved a lot, so that it has reached a stage where I knew now it can be released for the whole world. But I'm sure it will be developed even further to make it even more efficient and more effective. I mean, currently it's also purely focusing on the process side of things. And then I think project management methodologies that are available are pretty strong in creating best possible value for end consumers. But maybe we realized also some needs to tackle that part as well in it. Currently, it's more or less about the process of doing things very efficient.
So, Arash, this has been absolutely marvelous. If you woke up tomorrow morning, somebody handed you a magic wand, your cup of caffeinated beverage of choice, and gave you the power to change any two things that impact projects and how they're approached, what would those two things be and why?
That's a good one. I think the first wish would be for people to become less dogmatic. I see so many projects and product developments failing because people ignore the realities of their business and the conditions of their environment and stick to dogmas, meaning predetermined methods and processes. And these are often misunderstood dogmas. A simple example that you see again and again is that agile teams that never meet their sprint goals and the snowball of their spillovers get bigger and bigger from sprint to sprint are reluctant to create any kind of plans. The statement that is often heard here is, we are agile, we don't make plans, etc. So, and other things that are that often become subject of dogma because of wrong understanding of methods are things like the team decides, or we don't do effort estimations in Scrum. So my first wish is actually no dogma, please. My second wish would be for the profession of project management to be taken much more seriously from both sides, actually, from the company side and also from project managers. We see so often that companies suddenly hand over large projects and programs to employees who are not capable of managing them and they get in charge because they had completed small tasks or small projects successfully before, because of their smartness.
Remember, you too can master work intake. Have you signed up for your Mastering Work Intake open house on September 11th at 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time? If not, there's still time. Link in the show notes. Mastering Work Intake by Jeremy Willits and I hit the bookstores earlier this year. We have been running cohort-based workshops to help expose and solve this dirty little secret. Two of the questions we've gotten often are, what's a cohort-based workshop? And what value will I get? Well, we have answers to that, but at the same time, we want to provide you with some techniques and tips for controlling work entry. If you can make it, it'd be great to see you at our Mastering Work Intake open house on September 11th. In Reread Saturday News, Chapter 3 of How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigalucci, buy a copy, by the way, and read along, is titled Some Things Are in Our Power and Others Are Not. Chapter 3 begins to get into the nuts and bolts of Stoicism. Because Epictetus is the author's guide, the opening quote from Epictetus both sets the tone and summarizes the chapter neatly. I'll relate it. We must make the best of those things that are in our power and take the rest as nature gives it. If that's not work for you, then there's always the Serenity Prayer. Check out Week 4 and all previous weeks, links in the show notes. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 829, we will continue to crack groupthink by unpacking the impact of groupthink on urgency and importance. They say knowledge is power, but I would rather consider it risk mitigation. We also have a visit from Susan Parente, who brings her Not a Scrumdimentalist column to the podcast. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?